cool. I find that there's so many individuals. Oh, by the way, we were watching GeekCast. This is part 2, talking about toxicity, women, feminine toxicity, like whichever way you want to angle it, but toxicity, right? Feminine toxicity. Yeah. So, Neiman, you just said something great because I thought it was interesting how you're saying that some men use that phrase against women to, like, I guess, for them to be subservient kind of thing. But I've also found that women have used and taking the worst part of men, the toxic part, and then, like, you know, so this is where you got, why you got to be at work? Why you got to be, but you know what? I asked the same question, not in a way of demeaning women at all, but like, Johnny's a jerk. You don't have to act like Johnny to be the CEO. You don't have to act like Johnny to be the producer. And there is some truth to it, even though it can easily be twisted. I hate when I see that. It's like you could still be your wonderful, powerful, beautiful, nurturing self and be a CEO and run the show. Yeah. Oh, you're going that way? I'm a team player. How high you want me to jump? I'll jump. There's no ego there. It doesn't have to be, now I'm going to be, I hate that with a passion. I see it on film sets. I see it in other aspects of business. I'm getting all passionate because I hate it so much. And I see it so much. One time I had to talk to a CI, pull us out like, you know, you don't have to act like that. We already love you and respect you. Like, we got you.
Well, but there's bottom line, you just put it in place that it, regardless of female or male, it's just a toxic behavior. So, like, just like you said, it's just straight up toxic. They're emulating, and like I've said before, a lot of women in business choose to behave that way or act that way because they've seen it work for other men. So they think that that's how they need to behave in order to do that, and it's not the case at all. A lot of women think they have to be alphas all the time when you can actually legitimately just be a nice person.
Right. I've actually seen the opposite of that as well.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
I was saying I've actually seen the opposite of that as well, because I think it was just an evolution of how we got to that point. Because initially I was born in the 80s, and growing up in the 90s, men were in the streets doing drugs, very, very rough. And the sentiment was like, you don't have to be so rough all the time, show more emotion. And then more emotion.
Mute the car stuff. I think if you're in the street.
Can we talk about learned behavior then?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
HB was talking about learned behavior that women maybe, or anyone learned growing up in the home, and then Enigma was talking about learned behavior in the workplace, and that's where, you know, as an individual, everyone has to take responsibility for themselves on some level and look at themselves in the mirror. Or we all have to take communal responsibility and call people out on their bullcrap and say, hey, you're doing this. This is the fact. This is what you're doing, and this is how it's affecting other people. Let's talk about this because it needs to change because it's toxic. But so being able to facilitate like real, open, honest, authentic conversations, despite how tough they are.
But that's the whole problem, because everything is so spread out in society, because everyone has learned different things. And that's what I was relating to, like how it evolved. Because once men became more emotional and women progressed at a like exponential rate, now women are CEOs running their own business, and they don't find men at that same level because for whatever reason, there aren't that many opportunities. Women have, like I said, progressed to this level, and now they can't find someone who is their equal. And when they do, they don't want to be put down like women past. So it's like, how do you balance that? Like, everything is not across the board at this point. So everything is all scattered around. How do you bring that cohesiveness back as a society, as a community, so everyone understands one another? Because right now we're in all different places at all different levels and all different avenues.
Especially in relationships, because at this point we're at the point where relationships are business, for the most part, business transactions for a lot of people.
Exactly. That's why, like, men and women are not like in a relationship. You're still responsible, and that's like this whole thing with Jada and Will, because Jada puts Will down. We know Will is suffering and he's going through his own trauma, but we're still blaming him for how he's lashing out because of his trauma, because of this woman.
Right.
So how are you your own individual and not in this marriage? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, you know what? That's interesting what you're saying, because when it first happened, a lot of heat went towards Chris Rock. Oh, what'd you say? Oh, what'd you do? Oh, what'd you... And it was like that hype of, oh, Chris, what'd you do? And then when people actually like, oh, what? Let's listen to that joke again. Oh, well, really wasn't... There's a lot of ways you could take that. It wasn't that bad. Then it was like, oh, look what Will did. Oh, Will did. You know, Will. Then the third phase was Jada. Oh, Jada. And I think it's wrong to look at any of the three to blame for everything of the, like, it, it doesn't really work neatly. Like, you have to take it for each thing. Bottom line is, no one should hit anybody.
Correct.
And it was interesting because someone questioned that. I think we did a show on that really quick. It was like a reaction, and I was like, what's the first thing you learned in like pre-K? All right, now, guys, okay. Now, don't hit nobody. That's the first thing we learn in socialization in pre-K. Do not hit anybody. You might get upset. Talk to the teacher. You know what I mean? Talk to the academy. Talk to, you know what I mean? But so, like, let's get back to basics, shall we? Good.
Yeah, but here's the issue. You got a lot of us that were brought up as kids that were taught that in class. When we went home, we was told something else.
Well.
But then,
but what if they hit you first?
To be honest, it's interesting that. Oh, sorry. It's interesting that. Sorry to cut in, but it's interesting that you bring that up, because as a person who not only teaches karate, but I also work in a school. You know, and I work in a public school at that. You know, I've done karate more than I've actually worked in a school. So the dynamic of certain things, you know, even just going back to toxicity, you know, there's the dynamic. Why? I believe toxicity is at an all-time high. Not to mention the fact that, you know, social media played a big part of it, because let's be real here. Toxicity has become, people try to turn toxicity into a personality trait. Like, even if they don't mean to do it, like, just looking at the slap heard around the world, even thinking about that situation, you know, like you said, a lot of people were coming at Chris Rock's head for the joke, but, you know, the joke was very mid at best, very mid. It wasn't even that controversial. That's probably something you would hear, like, hanging out with your friends or something like that.
Right.
You know. Now, Will's reaction, while definitely uncalled for, definitely came from a place that was other than that joke that was made about Jada.
Yeah.
You know, I've said, and again, this is what you guys were talking about before, how, and I believe you mentioned this, Dayveonne, how men oftentimes were told that they need to be open up, they need to show their emotions more. That was that. That's what that was. That smack. That smack may not have been the result of Chris Rock's joke, but it was a breaking point, essentially. You know, because let's be real, Will Smith it's really been Will who's been catching the most hell since, you know, the birth of Red Table Talk, you know, and then the entanglement and stuff. Like, he's been catching the most, and pretty much everyone's understood that, like, Jada is probably not the best choice for Will. You know, he obviously
the way you say it.
He like, I'm just trying to be, you know, understanding as I can, because let's be real. Will is probably one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Right. Scientology notwithstanding. He's probably one of the nicest celebrities in Hollywood.
Well, you know what,
Jada,
Kendrick, to be fair, all we can know is the Will that has been packaged and sold to us is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood.
That's very true. You got a point.
Exactly.
The thing is, we don't know. Like, the thing is, And I'll let you finish, but we don't know if maybe that was the real Will Smith.
That's true. That's true.
We honestly don't know a lot that's going on in their household. Like, we know what the media has presented. We know what's going on, but they're kids. They're raising children. And if they said something, was something going on, kids used to talk. Kids usually will open their mouth real quick, especially in their situation. They're already famous. They can take off. They're not saying anything. So to me, we don't know exactly what's going on in their household. We just know that what's presented to us is that in this particular situation, Jada was laughing as if she was like almost masterminding the scenario, but she might have just been that might have been just her reaction to it, because we have to also remember there's history between the three of them at this point that a lot of people didn't present until way after the fact. Right. So there's history there. There's stuff that's there. There's a lot that's going on to unpack, and there's probably a lot that we didn't see that needed to be unpacked, and they're not going to let it happen.
Right, and then there's also a bad day too. I mean, to not defend what Will did, but you don't know the breaking point. You don't know what's going on with his cousin, brother, sister. You don't. I know I have bad days that it would not be a good idea to do what, it wouldn't be a good idea. It just wouldn't be good for the receiving end. So I get that.
Yeah.
I also want to bring up the point. I also want to bring up the point about comedy as a whole, because I think the timing of the joke, while the joke was harmless, it was just the timing that made it bigger than what it was, because had Jada not announced that she was suffering from alopecia, which she has said since 2018, this isn't new, but because social media is the thing, once you announce something and everyone catches wind, now that's the new thing. And because just days before she announced it, and then Chris Rock made a joke that people took offense to, automatically we go into Black comics attacking Black women because of their hair or because of a medical issue, which was not the case at all. But like I said, because we're so many different places and not cohesive as a society, that's also what sparked this whole thing. So when you do try to protect Black women, no matter how they may seem attacked, it's admirable for a Black man to go up and put another Black man in its place. Mind you, Chris Rock was doing his job, which was roasting everybody, but the surface tape of Ricky Gervais literally flaming everyone in Hollywood way worse than a comparison to a movie. People applauded that, but then people were mad at Chris Rock and sticking up for Will. But now we're looking at the whole dynamic of their relationship. Like, we've taken it so many different directions than what it really was. So where is comedy at this point in society? What can we talk about? What can we joke about? Who can we talk about? It wasn't like it was malicious at any the joke.
Kendrick,
it's funny that you mentioned that.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. Okay.
I was just going to say, it's funny that you mentioned the comedy aspect, because I was talking with somebody at work and I noticed how, let's even look at Chris Rock's and Dave Chappelle's latest comedy specials. If you really think about it, those can be seen as like TED Talks almost.
Yeah.
There's a joke sprinkled here and there, but honestly, those are like, what's the word I want to use? Those like dissertations on society, really. If you think about it, I haven't watched comedy, a whole bunch of comedy stand-up specials for a while now, because unfortunately we live in a society, I'm sounding like the Joker right now, we live in a society where people have to be very careful with what they joke about, let alone what they say.
Right.
Right. It's a point where it's like you have to be careful, because any joke you make, any minor criticism you can lay out is going to trigger somebody.
Right. Yes.
There's a British comedian, he has a few specials, and his whole thing is being not politically correct, Like his whole thing, like watch my show, it's offensive. So I think he's brilliant. Not only because his shows are offensive, but if you watch the whole thing, even within him being offensive towards everything and everyone, you could see the lines that he even won't cross. But the fact that he says that I will offend, like so he starts out every show, I'm going to offend. That's what I'm going to do. If you don't like that, don't listen. I think he's going to be one of the only guys standing, because everyone's going to have to go to that extreme of, I got to play this super safe because I want that Pepsi deal and I want that spin-off sitcom and that movie. Or you could have to be a real comedian and say, I'm going to do comedy. This is what I do. And whoever's offended could just kiss my conference.
You're talking about Ricky. You're talking about Ricky Gervais.
There are plenty of comedians out there. Right?
Yeah.
There's one
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah,
if you don't like it, if you don't like it, I don't care.
That's what he does, though. That's what he does. But it's different because a lot of comedians aren't coming out saying, I don't care, and this is what I'm going to do. So it's like world building, right? When we talk about movies and world building, he starts out the movie, you're going to be offended if you don't have thick skin. Therefore, this is not where you need to play. People don't normally start comedy shows like that.
Dave Chappelle did it in his very last comedy special. He said the same exact thing, but he's not the only one. And then there's also another comedian.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I'm saying this is this guy's shtick. He's
extreme.
I know. I'm saying that people are going to have to be pushed to the extreme to survive because of because of politically correctness and all that stuff. And people are so,
Look up a guy.
Was it political correctness or is it the fact? Sorry.
Look up this comedian. His name is Anthony Jeselnik, and he is, when I say to the right of everyone else, he will joke about things that you're like, you can't even make a joke about that, but he does it in a way where it's funny. And every crowd, every special, you will see people visibly uncomfortable. He splits the crowd every time, and he does the same thing. He's like, I'm a comedian. This is my type of comedy. It's one-liners, and it's always going to shock you, and I don't care how you feel. And he even got a comedy special show on Comedy Central, and he got banned in Australia. He's banned in a lot of countries, but there's a lot of...
He's going to survive. Go ahead.
But here's the thing. How do we look at an isolated incident and go, oh my God, this is a major event that's going to change the world? It's one incident that happened. And literally we're talking about it and we're going, oh, it's going to get okay for everybody else to do it. No, it's not. I mean, if you have morals, if you have anything about you, that's not something you're going to do. So for people to kind of go to these extremes and say, well, this is what's going to happen if I make... No. It's not going to happen. People are still going to go to comedy shows. People are still going to get roasted sitting in the front row. It's still going to happen. The issue is that there are people who are taking it and personalizing it and saying, well, this is what I think is going to happen to me, or this is how I am feeling right now. And they're putting their emotions into this, making this a bigger thing than what it is.
Also,
as far as comedians are concerned.
I'm going to go for broke on this one, and we just met, so don't hate me, but I'm just using this as an example.
No, it's fine.
Because I think also there's a cultural thing to this too that could play a role. So for instance, right? Again, Enigma, don't hate me. I preface that. Like, so for instance, right? I love the poof, boom, boom, I love it. But if I say, oh man, you're going to be in the next SpongeBob SquarePants, because, like I could say, like, you have a pineapple on your head, blah, 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 blah. Does that automatically... Like that, because Chris's joke was almost on the line of that barbershop joke of someone looking like this and that. Now, me saying that about your hairstyle, I thought it was so unfair. All of a sudden, now Chris doesn't like black women. He did a movie about hair and how dare he and da da da. So does culture play in toxicity, or is that toxic, or is it not? It's partly cultural. Are there cultural things that are toxic? How do we go with that?
Can I do some on that for a second?
Sure.
Could look at it in one perspective. I'm sure we all saw that there was speculation. Was this staged? Was it just for attention? They are entertainers. Their job is to entertain, to get people talking, to get a reaction. 2, there's a rise in victimhood culture, right? And a lot of people people want to be like, oh my God, I'm a victim, I'm offended, please feel bad for me. And then 3, like, I mean, people should be free to speak however they want, or should they, right? Like, where should the line be drawn for free speech? Because there's social
Don't call me the N-word.
Right.
That's my line.
Right.
But get to a certain point where, yeah, culture does play a role in some of that stuff. And when you watch Good Hair, for instance, you'll see that he does still take shots at Black women in that show, in that movie. People have noticed that. I didn't take too much offense to a lot of it, to be completely honest with you, because I just kind of glazed over and said, I'm just not going to mess with him anymore. I'm not really going to mess with Chris Rock.
Right.
I'm good. But there, again, this is like, just like Phoenix said, there's people that are playing, like, they're taking on this victim role and they're putting themselves in that position. And that, I think the problem is because all 3 of them are sitting in that position, not us. And we need to start, people need to really start taking themselves out of that situation and saying, what are they going to do about this? How are they going to resolve this problem? How is this going to affect their careers? We have to start, as people, stop putting ourselves, especially in celebrities' positions, because it's like we look at them like, I don't want to say idolize them, because it's not a good word.
Emulating or whatever.
Yes, exactly. We're like emulating them, and we put ourselves in a position too much to personalize what's going on with them, and we need to just kind of step away and just let that play out. Because they act like this is not the first time we've seen violence at an award show. It's just because we've seen 2 Black men at an award show presenting violence, or at least one presenting violence to another one. But it's not the first time.
Especially at an award show of such prestige. I mean, let's be real. The Oscars suck. I mean, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Like none of the movies I like are ever really nominated. You know, save for like this year, which was like Dune and stuff like that. But shout out to the Speed Force scene winning best, I guess, fan reaction or whatever the heck. But it's interesting that you bring that up, because and I was talking with somebody about this too. Is like, red table talk aside, you know, social media has essentially given us regular folk, and I use that in quotes, just a deeper look inside the lives of all these celebrities. So a lot of people tend to feel a stronger connection or simpatico with these guys. You know, think about it. What celebrity doesn't have a YouTube channel? Or a TikTok or an Instagram or just all forms of video type social media?
That would be Kendrick the Black Nerd.
I mean, I have all 3, so that's one thing. I got all.
Every celebrity has it. Bang, you got it. Bang.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, there's a level of discretion that has to go in how you do these things. Like, we're so busy telling kids, you know, to not constantly be on their devices, to not constantly be in front of a screen. But yet, you know, we have all these celebrities that are constantly in front of a screen. You know, I know Will Smith posts a lot. Dwayne Johnson posts a lot. You know, Jada has Red Table Talk. You know, and the list goes on and on and on. You know, and much to your point, you know, Enigma, like you were saying, you know, people develop a strong connection to these celebrities that they feel the absolute need to defend them. And this is something we've seen throughout the years. We've seen it for like the past 10, I'd probably even say 20 years we've seen it. You know, people are so diehard about their love for a celebrity that it's like, it goes beyond the point of being rational. You know, like, there's a good deal of celebrities that I rather like, but you're not going to see me, you know, out there in front of their house, you know, trying to get something signed, because that's just crazy.
Right.
We have about 3 minutes left, but I wanted to bring up one thing based on something that you just sparked the mind, Kendrick, with these reality shows. Reality TV has boosted feminine toxicity. You know, all the housewife shows. Yes, all of them. All the hip hop like, you know, I married a rapper and this is my life now. Like, all those shows have done worse, and I think worse by women, because a lot of the shows are produced by women, creative, like, you know, there's a good percentage are run or created by women, which I find ironic, because all they do is highlight the worst, especially in the worst of people of color.
Yeah.
And it just promotes toxicity. And it makes it the norm.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the norm. If you put a bunch of people together, come on now. When you watch these shows, aren't you looking like who's going to be the bad? Like even in The Bachelor, like who's going to be the bad one? Who's going to fight everybody? Who's going to be the most catty? Like, you're looking for it now. Like, it's part of the thing. And I think some people go on these shows like, well, I'm going to do that because I'm going to get more sponsors. I'm going to get more fans. I don't know. I think we just need to be careful of that as a society, because it's only fostering negativity. It's only like feeding more negativity.
I disagree with you on the fact that people have built their wealth off of entertainment. So I think we're at a crossroads between comedy, fame, social media, and the means it takes to get to that level, because literally anyone can go viral and blow up off one video and then have 1 million followers, and then now they're getting sponsors and record deals. So I think we're also we're also being cautious of what we say, how we say, because once you put something out there on the internet, where your first video, your second video, and then your 20th video, you start getting followers, and then you become famous. I mean, look at Kabi Lame. He is a Black Italian man, and literally the quickest to hit 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram. So I think that people aren't just emulating celebrities. They understand that entertainment is anyone's game. You can use any social media platform and you could be the next person. You could be the next Meghan Markle. You can find, a prince in some foreign country, or you can just do a video, and next thing you know, you're sitting next to Will Smith doing an interview. So we're at this weird place in society where there are no rules, there's no holds barred, but anything could happen. So you have to watch what you say, because you don't want to offend someone and stop yourself from getting a brand or, making
right.
We're going to end it right there. Everyone's going to give their social media. All I got to say to that, Corey, you just inspired the next show. We got to do it, because I think that's great what you said. No, it's deep. That's deep. It wasn't just a little thing, because as a society, like, people are blowing up, and it's not all positive energy. All I gotta say is, if you are going to blow up and interview Will Smith next week, just know how to duck. That's all. All right, so everyone, give everybody your social media.
Dayveonne Bussey on Instagram and Facebook, and Twitch is Shamal Williams. That's it.
You could find me, Corey Davis, at I am GT3 on all of the things.
Kendrick?
Phoenix Sparks _official. Sorry. On Twitch and Instagram.
And Nick Pascal on Twitch and also on TikTok.
Mr. HB Gibson on Instagram, HB Gibson on YouTube, HB Gibson on Facebook, and pick up my audiobook. Echo Nova Delta, the Expansion Project, Book 2.
Shameless plug.
Word, son. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you get it done. Word, son. Kendrick Gray, the dreadlock blurred. Sometimes there's an underscore in there, depending where you look. Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, which I barely use, PlayStation Network, literally all the things. Dreadlock blurred. Okay.
Excellent.
Just Google it.
Michael on IG, and you're watching GEEKCASTER. Go to GeekCaster.com. GeekCaster's on YouTube. GeekCaster on Instagram. Blah, 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 blah. Everything geek culture. And we just had a great show. Thank you so much for the guests joining us. This was awesome. Hopefully, everyone watching walks away with something. Food for thought.
Yeah.
And look out for that next show, Inspired by Corey, because that was brilliant. We got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Boom.